All right, so working collaboratively with GitHub. Okay, so everything starts off, I'm gonna put a list of steps over here on the right. Step number one when making a group project or any project after this point is creating, don't like that pen. We're gonna have to go pencil and create repo. So this is on github.com, right? We go up there and we create a repository which creates the remote master. So this is GitHub up here. And the remote master lives only on GitHub until you copy the command, and one person in the group will connect that to their local machine. And here they have the local master. So remote master and local master, at this time they look the exact same. Everyone else in the group will wait at this point because the person that's setting this up is going to set it up and push up the master so it's all connected, and then everyone in the group will clone this down. So by step two, we're going to assume everyone is at this stage. Everyone's connected to the same repository and they all have their own local master. Step two, you make a branch. Which we're going to refer to as local branch. Now this will be for one person it might be navbar, for another person it might be server setup, for another person it might be front-end routing, whatever you're working on, or CSS. Or maybe someone's building the server file and someone else is building the routes file and someone else is building the model file. Either way, everyone's making their own branch. You create a branch and you check out, which we'll look at this in live code, but basically it means check out to this branch, so you're coding on that branch. You're not coding on the master branch anymore. Step three, you code. You write code on your branch. You build your navbar or your server, and you're working on the file right here. Once you are ready, once your branch is ready to be integrated into the remote master and become part of the application, you add, commit, and push your branch to GitHub. We're gonna do this first. And now we have a remote copy of the branch. So local branch gets pushed up, and now GitHub knows about it, and there's a remote branch. So add, commit, and push. Step five is where the process goes backwards for a little bit. Because at this point, we could go to GitHub and say, do a pull request. And a pull request means pull this code and create it as the new master. The problem is this branch that we just pushed up may not have everything the remote master has. What if someone else in your group has already done this process and moved their branch into master while you've been coding? So this may have updated code, this remote master, that you don't have yet locally. So now we're going to backtrack. Step five, we're going to check out back to master locally. And we check out back to master. Once we're on our local master, we want to check for updates. Does our local master have everything the remote master has? So step six, we will git pull. And that says pull down all code from the master. If my local master is missing any of that code, update it. So now our local master is up to date. At this point, we then check out back to our branch, which I'm calling LB, local branch. All right, so with another arrow going this way, back to local branch. Once we're on the local branch, we merge. And the merge is saying everything the local master has, add it to my local branch so that the local branch has all of my new code plus everything the remote master already has. It's making sure that my branch is the most up-to-date version of the project at this time, so that step 9, I can add, commit, and push one more time and update the remote branch so it's fully updated. And then step 10, I finally integrate it and make it be the new master by going to GitHub and accepting the pull request. So if I outline these in colors, we've got step 1, step 2, step 3 is we're just coding on here. Step 4, we push it up. Step 5, we check out back to master. Step 6, we pull down the master. Step 7, we check out back to the branch and merge, so 7 and 8. Step 9, we push it up. Step 10, we do the pull request. You kind of have to follow this. You're going to have to do this a couple of times. So whenever you're doing it, pull an instructor or a TA aside, unless you know exactly what you're doing, because it's very easy to get one of these commands wrong and just cause some issues. What does it look like at this time? Does it look like complete spaghetti, just what's happening? Yeah.
So one person can just
yeah, so right after this, I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to walk through the process as if I'm the one setting up the group project. And then I'll have somebody like Martin or Alan pretend to be one of my group partners and clone it down. And I'll add some code, they'll add some code, we'll fix the merge, make it work. So to be fair, we don't really need steps 6 through 10. If we wanted to do the pull request right after step 4 when we push our branch up, we could. But if our branch doesn't have code that the master does, it's not going to be able to merge without conflicts, and we're going to have to fix those merges on GitHub. We don't like fixing our merges on GitHub, so instead we opt to go back to our local master locally, update it locally, and then merge it with our branch locally. That way the merge is done by the time we push it back up to GitHub and have it be the new master, avoiding any merge conflicts on GitHub.
So when you do microservice, you still microservice, you still have 2 files that local in there.
Yeah, I have two branches. I have my local master branch and then I have my local branch I'm working on. Like this would be navbar or maybe server setup. Whatever feature I'm currently working on, that's the name of my local branch. And it's when I'm ready to integrate that we jump to step 4 and go through the rest of the process. Now, let's say right in the middle of this, I'm on step 3, but Alan's in my group and he's ready to merge. So he goes ahead and does step 4, he comes down, he pulls down the master, he merges it into his branch, pushes it up, and puts it into the new master. So the master is now updated. I'm working on my local branch that doesn't have the code that Alan just added to the master. If I'm not ready to push my code up yet, I can still go and grab this. What I do is I push my branch up, I would check out to master and I'd pull it down so I have his code. And I just merge right there and keep going, which we can look at an example of that as well. But when you're ready to actually integrate it into the master, you go through the rest of these steps just to make sure there's no conflicts up here. Any comments from people that have done this before? It's not easy to look at until you've looked at it many, many times? Yeah. Let's see it in action then. Oh boy, live demos of GitHub always work. It's a lie, they hardly ever work. But, c'est la vie. Let's stop these. Great. Yeah, I'll do the initial setup and I'll have one of you share your screen and clone. So yeah, Martin, if you wouldn't mind joining the Zoom call, we'll have you do it here shortly. All right, so I am the creator of the group project. Actually, I did this wrong already. Because you do not want to be in your repository when you make this directory. The group project and the personal full stack project are their own repository. So just like I'm CDing out of lessons, you're going to be CDing out of assignments, and you're going to be making a new repository just for this project. So I'm just going to call this something general, group project, and I'm going to make this a repository. It's outside of any current repository. So let's remind ourselves how to create a repository. Step 1, go to GitHub. This isn't the only way. This is just the easiest way when you're first starting. So now all this is getting recorded, unless you'd like to take notes as well. So whoever's making it will log into their GitHub, they'll click the plus symbol and they'll say new repository. Then they'll name it something. I'll say test group project. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll to the bottom and hit create repository. This will give me a script that all I need to do is copy this, paste it in the directory and hit enter. And now I'm connected. And notice, yeah, that master shows up to say, hey, you're on a master branch. And if I refresh over here and it shows that I am connected, it's not showing like you need to connect this repository screen, it's showing the connection here. So now this is up to you, but something that might be good at this point is lay out the framework. And again, this is just the person setting up the repository. Maybe as a group you do this together on one machine so you're all on the same page. But you'd open this up and set up all the base files. So let's talk about what those would be. We'd npm init, create a package JSON. We'd create a server.js. We'd make sure the main name in here is server.js if that's what we're calling it. If it's index.js, we don't have to worry about it. And that's pretty much all we need for backend. Folders won't get pushed to GitHub unless they have files in them, so don't feel like you have to make all the folders. And then I'd also maybe set up the client folder, and I'd install create React app into it. And I'm just setting up all the base framework. I'm not going to really change much about it. Just so that every person that clones this down doesn't have to go through and set this all up themselves. You already have a basic folder structure to go off of. And the ones that clone it down just have to npm install to get all the code. So this is installing, it's putting the create React app in client. I have an empty server, package JSON. And this is taking a while. But while this is installing, any questions up to this point of who's doing this or why? Cool, okay. And it should install faster so it's not so silent in here. It's going, it's going. And React is installed. Cool, at this point I would maybe even install the rest of the dependencies you need. So on the back end, npm on the back end, npm iExpress, Morgan, and Mongoose. On the front end, I'd cd into client, npm install Axios and React Router DOM. The reason I'm doing this is because the package JSON and the package lock.json will go to GitHub, and depending on the order of you installing them, the package JSON, package lock.json may look different. So making sure that everyone has the same one will help with some really dumb merge conflicts that can happen. So now that I have all the dependencies for the backend, Express, Mongoose, Morgan, I go on the client, look at that package JSON, and I have Axios, React, React DOM, React Router DOM, and React scripts. At this point, I'd say it's about good to push to GitHub. I might even go as far as deleting the source folder so we don't push up a bunch of stuff we don't need. But I'm not adding any code yet, right? I'm just setting up the folder structure. This is the only time and the only person that will push the master. This person just set up the folder structure and they created the repository, so they'll git add all, git commit -m with a message, maybe initial commit. And they'll, whoop, what got added? All my node modules got added. Why did they get added? Where's my git ignore? Right, so how do you remove node modules that have been added? You can say git reset, which says undo my git add and commit. Now if I git status, everything is untracked. So now I can add the git ignore, .git ignore, add node modules to it, and then try my git add all. Check git status. Okay, found a new file. Let's see what the commit does. Doesn't look like it's ignoring the node modules, is it? It's not. So we have to say git rm cached node modules. That did not match any files. Why are you?
Did you get status are still there?
No.
Okay, so you can do get reset and then add all caps. And that little bracket thingy, I don't know what it's called. At the very end after head. Like this simple.
That one?
Yeah. Good status.
Let me just remove my git ignore. We're not worrying about it right now. You're going to add a git ignore to make sure this doesn't happen. Initial commit and git push it up. And again, this is the only time anyone in the group will push the master. It's whoever set up the folder structure so that the repository that everyone else clones down is all set up and ready to go. I'm going to quickly remove those node modules for the sake of sanity. Cached node modules. Oh wait, we gotta, that's why it didn't work. Rm cached node modules. This is extra, you won't have to do this if you added your git ignore at the beginning.
So it's a good rule of thumb to, whenever you type git push, make sure you're not the master, except for this one.
Right, this is the only time we're ever pushing a master because now the repository is at its starting point. So this is where someone that already has the repository will immediately make a branch. I will say git branch, and let's say I'm going to work on the server. So I'll call this branch server setup and hit enter. But I'm still on the master branch. I need to check out this branch now to start working on it. So I'll say git checkout server setup. And how do I know I'm on which branch? The branch color here changes the text. Okay, and I'm good to keep coding. So I go into server and I start setting it up. And I get that far into it and I think I'm good. So now Martin is in my group and he's going to start working on the routes.
You want me to really do it?
Yeah, well, you won't actually have to code anything other than like a console log or something.
Do you want to send you the Zoom link, or is it on the channel? Or
It's in the May Slack call. May Slack. Pinned items.
it'll be a couple of seconds.
Yeah. Because let's think about it. I pulled this down and made a branch. When Martin clones down this repository, will he have this code? No. That only exists here on my machine. He's pulling this down that's up on GitHub to make his own local master. that will be a mirror copy of the one on GitHub. But since I haven't put my branch up to GitHub, he has no idea about that code. So he's getting the same starting point without this. It's in the pinned items. I could join on my computer too. Okay.
Then you can just do the whole example.
Okay, I'm going to collaborate with myself today, which actually might be less buggy. So, not to say you're buggy, the process is. Dang.
What was it into
Oh, I see.
remove the cache? It was git rm.
-r -- cached. Super easy.
And then the name of the file.
Or -r is for the folder recursively. The file, you don't need the -r. And I'm in the Zoom call. Hi. Okay. Real sorry about that. All right, so I am the other person now. So I'm going to go, I am now the owner of this. This is me, vSchool. Me as a person collaborating hasn't joined yet. vSchool, or the owner of the repository, would need to go to settings, go to collaborators, and add me as a collaborator. So we're collaborators. We'll look for me under my GitHub name. I think it's njensen58. There we go. Add collaborator. And now I have the ability to work with this repository. Now let's stop share here. And I will share here. Hey, okay. So now I would like to join this. Oh, this is not clunky at all, is it? So I'm going into my Gmail and accepting the invitation. And that took me to this page. vSchool has invited you to collaborate, so I accept the invitation. Cool, let's collaborate. Accept. All right, and I need this repository locally. So I'm gonna hit clone or download. I'm gonna grab this link. And then in my console, I'm gonna go to a place where there's no repository, so just in dev. And I'm gonna say git clone and paste in that URL. And I know that's really small, but that's all I'm having to say, and I'll hit enter. Okay, if I do an ls, sorry, there's a few directories here, but we'll notice that a new directory has appeared called group project. Do we see it? Where is it? Hey, thank you, test group project. Okay, so I'm gonna cd into that, and I'm gonna code. And notice I don't have the code that I have added as the owner of the repository, but everything else is there. So instead of making the server, I'm going to work on routes.
Wait.
What did I do?
I want to check out first.
Yes. That is the inclination, but what branch am I on? I'm a master. So I'm local, I have it. I'm going to git branch to route setup. And I'm going to git checkout to that.
So git branch just declares a new branch, and then checkout checks you out to that branch.
Yep. And now I'm going to start my routes. So I will create a directory called routes, and I'll make a file in it called myrouter.js, and I'll just import Express. Okay, and I get done with my work before the person that made the repository does. So I'm going to git add all, git commit, and git push. But does my branch exist on GitHub yet? No, so VS Code or git bash here will say you need to use this command instead to create the branch on GitHub. So I just copy that, and now the branch exists on GitHub, and I can go there. If I go up to the project now, it'll say, hey, route setup was set up just a minute ago. And we can see that under branches here if I refresh the page. We can switch between them. But I want to make sure no one has updated master yet. So before I actually go to GitHub and accept that, I'm going to check out back to master. I'm going to do a git pull. Everything's up to date, so I feel good. I'll check out back to my branch. And I don't need to do any merging or anything because everything is up to date. So I'll go to GitHub and say accept and compare my pull request. I get the green light, everything is good to go. Great, I'll create the pull request and I will merge the pull request and I'll confirm the merge. It's a process. But now it's a part of the master. If I go to the test group project repository, and now there's a routes folder, and I'm on the master branch. So this is the new master. So I've done my part. Well, the other person coding, which is now the screen, they don't have the routes folder. But they're done with their server setup. They want to send this to GitHub. So they start the same process. They, git add all, git commit, server setup is done, and git push. And again, this branch doesn't exist on GitHub either. So this person would also copy the command and send their branch up. But in between the time of this person creating the branch and coding, this other person has come in and updated master with their code. So my server setup branch doesn't have all the code it needs. So this is very important. I would need to git checkout to master and git pull to get the updates. And watch the left-hand column with the folders. Routes appears. So now we have the updated code. We have the stuff the other person pushed up, and we have the stuff, oh wait, no we don't. We do. Let's check out back to our branch. What is it called? Server setup. Okay, so here's our branch. It has the code I added, and the master, oh boy, and the master has the code the other person added. So I need to make these two the same version. So from my branch, I will say git merge --no--ff master and hope it works. If it works, this is the screen you get, and you hold in Shift and press ZZ. Merge made by the recursive strategy. Now I have my server code and the person's router code. At this point, I add everything again. Commit after merge, and I push it up. So now this person on GitHub will go see that their branch has been pushed up and compare and pull request. Because we did that process locally of merging them together, this should always be a green light. We fix all the problems locally. So I'll create the pull request and I'll merge it. Yeah.
Do you want them to delete the branch and GitHub after?
Yeah, that's probably good. You probably won't need to use the same branch. It's always easy to make another one. So right after you merge, you can delete it remotely. But all that deletes is this one. This one is now gone. But this one still exists, the local version. So then locally, I'd have to check out back to master and say git branch -d server setup. And that will delete my local one as well. Now, do I just start coding on my next feature? What do I do first? Make a new branch. Great. Git branch. Now I'm working on models. I'll get checkout to models, and now I'll keep going. And it's keeping 3 people in sync with this process. It's extremely challenging with this project. So again, ask us for help when you're doing it. But I think about after the 5 or 6 times that you go through it, you'll get it and start being able to use it.
I think something else that makes it a lot easier is don't work in the same files.
Yeah, never work in the same files. Try to keep those separate. Even if it means I'm doing CSS today, you're doing server today, I'm working on front-end routing today. Make sure you're not touching each other's files.
You should show what a merge conflict looks like. Not like a real one, but one where
Let's-
it's the same file. That way it looks like
Okay,
it's not that bad.
no, no, it's not that bad. It's funny how hard it can be to create a merge conflict when you
All
don't
you have
mean
to do is
it.
have someone like your other computer work on the same file, and then work on the same file here.
Yeah, so let's do that. Yeah,
If you, let's say you did like routes or something, and then you pushed it, and then right there, instead of making a new branch, could you check out back into that same one, like if you had to make a change or something, or?
I mean, it's almost, because the master is fully up to date at this point, and so will your branch, because you just barely merged them. So there's really no difference. You can check out back to that branch and keep going, following the same process. The only issue is when you push it up, GitHub's not going to give you that nice little icon right here where it's like new branch was detected, because it's not a new branch, it's an existing one. So to do the pull request, you'd have to go to pull requests, choose the branch, say new pull request, and say, you know, from my route setup, merge that to master.
Or what if you delete the remote branch? Just keep the local. Then you will have a nice message. It'll ask you to create an upstream.
That's true. If you delete the remote one but not the local, it should show you that again. But once you get the master back from that pull, it's easy just to make a branch off of that and keep going. Just always starting fresh from the most up-to-date code. So I'm going to break it over on my computer here. What I'm going to do is go into, so he's working on models now. So this person comes in and makes a models folder and decides that the file should be called stuff.js, and on line 2, const mongoose equals require mongoose, and then doesn't export or import schema. They just say const stuff schema equals a new mongoose dot schema, and they get that far, or I get that far, and I stop. I'm ready to push. But meanwhile, on the other side, you can't see it on my screen right now, I've also made a models folder. I've also made a stuff.js file. I've also imported mongoose, but I've also imported schema, so that this says new schema instead of new mongoose.schema. There's a difference between the two files. Stuff schema is a so if it helps just to really quickly see it, this is what I have going on. The other person that's working on it has done something like this. Right, so there's a little bit, it's the same type of thing, but someone did it differently and they're both coding in the same file. So I think I'm great at what I'm doing, so I just git add all. Actually, I need to, yeah, let's just cause some major conflicts here. Git add all, git commit, message, and git push. And then I'm like, my code is best code. And I'm like, my code is best code. Yep. So I'm going to go to pull requests, and I'm going to say, you know what, new pull request. Let's do this. They're able to merge, so everything must be fine. Cool. Now my code's the new master, but I didn't tell anyone about my group, in my group about this. I just pushed my routes up, and, or that model file up.
Well, so this would be an even worse thing to do, because like say you didn't have the most updated master, you're technically deleting all of the stuff that anyone else might have merged with you because you didn't update your own master.
Quite possibly.
Oh, can't you like send a message?
That is what you should do, even if it's over Slack and you say, hey, has anyone merged? And so I'm over here and I'm going to do my part. I'm going to say git add all, git commit, models are done, and git push. and create my branch, but I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, you know what? Somebody might have updated master since the last time this happened. So let's go make sure that this is going to work on GitHub. Maybe I go and peek just to see, and I say compare and pull request, and it gives me this. I'm like, okay, so something has definitely happened. Where is the discrepancy? I don't want to fix it here, so I'm not going to create the pull request. I'm going to check out back to master. I'm going to get pull to get the new master down. Okay. And then I'm going to check out back to my branch and try to merge these together locally. So if something goes wrong, I fix it here. And we can see the discrepancy, right? Here's the master currently, and here's mine currently. Same file, slightly different code, causing a conflict. So I go for it, I say get merge --no--ff master, automatic merge failed. And here we get a nice conflict. Now we want to do this in Visual Studio Code because of what it just did for us. It said, here's the two branches you're trying to merge together. Here are the two versions we have. Which one should we keep? And it gives you this. It says this one is the incoming change. This one is the current change. Up here, you can click any of these to either accept the current, the incoming, both, or compare them even more in depth. On the left-hand side, in our folder structure, any file that has a merge conflict will either be painted red or purple, depending on your VS Code, I think, version number. So all I have to do is look in this red folder, find the red file, and I'll see something like this. I'm like, you know what? I like what they did here with the whole pulling schema out. You know, I didn't do that, but that actually looks like a good idea. So I'll accept the incoming change. And I want this to be the new thing. So I'm gonna now git add, git commit, merge, conflict, fixed, and git push. So I'm like, okay, I fixed the merge locally. Can the master now accept it? So I'll refresh this page, and now I can merge. It has all the code it's expecting. So I can create pull request and go. Now I know it looks really easy, but it's actually quite hard. That was a joke. Sorry, it doesn't look easy. I know it's convoluted. Yeah.
So is there a reason why you prefer to do it in VS Code versus GitHub?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a pro at Git tools online, then use it. But the visual clues and such in VS Code are none compared to GitHub's tools. There's another one you can use with Xcode, their diffing tool. But now that VS Code is so good at showing your different versions side by side and then painting all the files different colors for you to check, it's a really quick job. But when you're fixing merge conflicts, I would get together as a group to make sure, hey, did you type this? Why do we have this? Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's keep it and go through the process. But that probably is enough talking about the process. Oops.